In the entire history of the Raptors, one thing that has stopped the team from being able to put out consistent contenders is getting star players to play in Toronto, but more importantly, getting star players to stay in Toronto. And now that there is a star player who wants to stay, it feels as though the team is pushing him away. So, how did we get to this point? Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? This is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel that's dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos just like this, as well as live streams and shorts. If you enjoyed what you see from today's video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this all throughout the offseason and to help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers. But the Toronto Raptors in its history has been dominated by feuds between star players. There's the Vince Carter saga, there's the Chris Bosh saga, there is the Kawhi Leonard saga to a degree. And one thing that has been a consistent problem for the Toronto Raptors is their location. Playing in north of the border has provided the Raptors with an extra hurdle to climb in many senses in getting star players to want to play in Toronto, especially in the early days of the franchise. There were even players who would outright refuse to be drafted by Canadian teams because they simply did not want to play here. And even though that stigma has diminished to quite a significant degree, it still remains a problem today with the organization. I felt as though when the Raptors won that 2019 championship, that was it. That was proof that star players could come to Toronto like Kawhi Leonard. And even though Kawhi didn't really want to come to Toronto when he was traded here, didn't really want to be here, he gave absolutely everything for this organization, gave absolutely everything for this city to help this team get to its first ever NBA championship. And that should have been the model. That should have been the start of, hey, you can come here, you can find success, you can find joy, you can find happiness, but that just really hasn't come to fruition since that 2019 championship. And it's felt like since then, the Raptors have been on a slow decline. It feels as though we're even on that decline still with the way this current offseason is heading. So consistently what has been a problem is convincing star players to come here first of all. So the biggest issue has been finding those star players. What the Raptors have had to do is build them up themselves. You make a significant trade for Kyle Lowry, who is on really the cusp of the NBA at a certain point based on attitude problems, based on how he played, but really helped turn this franchise around, and we helped mold Kyle Lowry into the likely future Hall of Famer that he is. It was also drafting DeMar DeRozan and building him up and being able to use his star power in terms of ability to have the value to make that trade for Kawhi Leonard. Even though guys like Kyle Lowry made the team, even though guys like DeMar DeRozan remain with the team, there was so much conversation. It was such a saga for those players when we got to their free agencies because it really felt as though specifically for DeRozan that we were going to lose the player for nothing. Thankfully, it doesn't happen, and the domino effect allows us to get to that 2019 NBA championship where, once again, even after winning a championship and having a team with the ability to run it back to next season, Kawhi Leonard decides to go to the Los Angeles Clippers. So still, getting star players to stay is a problem for the organization. But in this current scenario where we face in the summer of 2023, we're working on trading a star player who has made it explicitly clear that he wants to stay with the team long-term in Pascal Siakam. It's very, very rare for the Toronto Raptors to have a star player who wants to stay with the team. I don't want any jokes, anything like that in the comments about Pascal Siakam. This guy is a two-time All-NBA forward and a two-time, probably should have been three-time All-Star, but two-time All-NBA, two-time All-Star. That is a star player in this league, like it or not. Pascal Siakam is a star player in this league, like it or not. And it's very rare for a player of that caliber to want to stay in Toronto, but now that we have a star player who wants to stay, it feels as though all we want to do as a fan base and all we want to do as a front office is push him away. It really feels as though the majority of the fan base wants to see Pascal Siakam gone. And we'll put a poll in the community tab maybe to verify that statement here. But really, Raptors fans, especially growing up, like if you're as old as I am, I'm 24 years old, I remember the absolute garbage era of the Raptors in 2006 up until 2012. That era of the Raptors where just a diabolical product consistently for this team. And if you're older than myself, you saw an even worse product in maybe the pre-Vince Carter era or right at the start of the post-Vince Carter era as well. So if you're a lot younger than that, maybe you don't quite understand what this team, what this organization has been through because the last decade really all there's been is winning. The Raptors only have one losing season in the last 10 years. So we've done a great job of reshaping this organization, reshaping this team, yet still we find it hard to bring players in through free agency. So retaining our talent is so essential, which is why it's been such a problem since the championship, in the post-championship era, losing these players for free. So perhaps that is what the Raptors are worried about with Pascal Siakam, but we've had a bunch of very credible reporters suggest that Pascal Siakam is not going to sign an extension with any team that he's potentially traded to because he wants to stay with the Raptors. He wants to sign his extension here and stay in this city, stay with the organization that right now, he's the face of the franchise, the best player on this team. Maybe you can consider Scottie Barnes a franchise player, but the reality is Pascal Siakam is by far the best player on this team, and he wants to be here. It's such a rare sight, but why do people want to push him away? Well, I might be one of those people. Let's go through the validity of these statements here, because let's look at where the Raptors are. There's been a number of players since the championship that have left for absolutely nothing, like Kawhi and Danny Green, who, we saw those coming, but also Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and now Fred VanVleet leave absolutely for free. And they don't leave for free. We don't get the value that we should of the player, like Kyle Lowry, who we traded for Goran Dragic, who turned into Thaddeus Young and cost us a first-round pick, and Precious Achiuwa, who, I'll give him some more time here, but it really hasn't worked out in his second full season with the team, unfortunately, for the Raptors. So getting value for these players has always been a difficult feature for the Raptors, so retaining talent is vital to this team. But we've gotten to a point right now where the front office has put us in such a hole, it's almost like they're handcuffed into making a significant decision like this, where it really feels as though both outcomes are losing situations. There's no way to win this offseason for the Raptors the way things have shaken out so far, because you don't have your 2024 first-round pick because you lost at the trade deadline just to still not make the playoffs. So you don't have any fallback. You don't have any safety net where, you pull the plug, you have a bad season. There's no draft pick to save you there. And with players like, if Siakam isn't here, you still have OG, you still have Barnes, Trent, Pirtle, these players. This is not going to be a team that's bad enough to likely receive a bottom 6 pick in the draft. Therefore, the protections on this pick that went to the San Antonio Spurs likely is not going to come into play this season, so that shouldn't be a factor in any sort of discussion about where the team is heading. So, without that sort of safety net, you kind of want to commit to having a decent team out there on the court to maximize development and just maximize the entertainment factor and getting this team into the playoffs. Consequentially, you might decide that, that draft pick is a sunk cost, and the reality is with our team right now, the financial situation that we're in and the player retention situation that we're in is extremely bleak and extremely dire. We just saw what an offseason could look like, where we expect the player that wants to stay in Toronto to come back here, but what if a team opens up enough cap space that they make an offer the player can't refuse? And Fred VanVleet getting a max offer from the Houston Rockets was simply an offer he could not refuse, and all of a sudden, your starting point guard, a guy who was an all-star a year and a half ago, has left your team, and you get absolutely nothing in return. That doesn't seem to be the case for Pascal Siakam, but the priority might be to keep OG Anunoby, and that's where the problem could lie for the Raptors. Pascal Siakam, yes, is a free agent at the end of the upcoming season, but also OG Anunoby is a free agent at the end of the upcoming season. Scottie Barnes' extension eligible at the end of the upcoming season, and OG, with the money being floated around right now, with the value that NBA teams are going to perceive OG Anunoby has, I think he might get close to getting a max contract, at least $30 million a year in the offseason. Scottie Barnes is coming off of, he's been a previous Rookie of the Year. I would expect him at the end of this season to want to get a max contract extension, a rookie max extension. Gary Trent Jr., as of right now, is going to be a free agent at the end of the season, but if you watch the previous video, I have full faith that an extension is going to be in place for Gary Trent Jr. But still, we have to worry about OG Anunoby. We have to worry about Scottie Barnes. And those two might take precedent and might have further hierarchy in the decision-making processes for the Raptors organization. Therefore, the logical thing to do right now could be to trade Pascal Siakam, start to retool a little bit, focus on the development and touch of the younger players in this team like Scottie Barnes. It feels as though we've handcuffed ourselves into such a situation where trading Pascal Siakam right now with 1 year left on his contract means that we are not going to get the full value out of the player that we should. Once again, we're not going to get the full value out of the player that we should be able to get full value out of. So that is a losing situation for the Raptors, not getting the full return possible for Pascal Siakam. Wouldn't say it's that big of an emergency. And on the flip side, if you keep Pascal Siakam, you likely run into these big financial issues in the offseason where you lose yet another marquee player like OG Anunoby potentially for free, and that of course is a losing situation. But that situation seems far worse than the current situation. So there is validity to the statement that it would be better to trade Pascal Siakam, and I'm of the opinion that if you get a suitable offer here, a suitable offer, doesn't have to be like even an offer that blows you away, but if you get a suitable offer, then it makes sense to trade Pascal Siakam. And it truly is extraordinary that we used to pray for stars to want to stay here, and now we have a star player, and he wants to stay, but maybe we don't want him to stay. Perhaps what's going on right now is that the Raptors are waiting on Kobe Buffkin. If you don't know, Kobe Buffkin signed his rookie contract with the Atlanta Hawks, which means there is a month before he is trade eligible, and that becomes a full month, I believe, on August 2nd. So the Raptors could be waiting for August 2nd to pull the trigger on an Atlanta Hawks deal, and a suitable offer to me from the Atlanta Hawks would look like DeAndre Hunter, Onyeka Okongwu, Kobe Buffkin, and a first-round pick. I don't think that's the full value that you should be able to get out of Pascal Siakam based on his skills, based on his talent, but that's suitable enough right now for the Raptors to strongly consider and to reduce and alleviate the headache that they would be getting at the end of the season. The Raptors will become a little bit worse after making that trade, but maybe better off in the future, and maybe much better off with what they can do financially in the 2024 offseason. So we don't have a repeat of the situation that transpired with Fred VanVleet losing yet another player for free. The failures of the front office in the post-championship era have really spiraled us out of control into forcing us and handcuffing us into making a difficult decision like this, but it seems as though it is the necessary step if it's possible to do. What's going to stop this trade from happening, because it feels like Masai Ujiri is full steam ahead on this deal, is Pascal Siakam wanting to stay and not wanting to sign that extension with the team that trades for him. So, all in all, my prediction here, people are treating it like Siakam is gone. I would still be relatively surprised if on October 24th, whatever the first day is of the NBA season, I'd still be relatively surprised if Pascal Siakam wasn't in a Raptors uniform, but that might be the worst of the two scenarios that could transpire with Siakam in the offseason. What do you think? I'll put the poll in the community, but let me know in the comments. Should the Raptors trade Pascal Siakam in the offseason? Yes or no? Because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe for more content just like this. If you're watching this right now, yesterday I had my ACL surgery. Going to take a few days to recover. Maybe back on Monday. Maybe not. We'll see. Thank you so much for all your supportive words. I'll see you again very, very soon for another video.